Hi guys, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact weapon review. Today we're going to review the Snow Tombed Starsilver. It's a claymore, it's a 4-star claymore. It came from the dragonspine series. So you pretty much you found this weapon on dragonspine. There are a lot of video on internet how to obtain this weapon, and for refining this, you can only obtain it by forging. This means that you can't obtain it by gacha in weapon banners and other things. You need to forge this weapon with this material right now. And that's pretty nice because forging is actually a bit of a free-to-play help. Yeah, help a free-to-play player. Because prototype are actually dropped by boss, like the Wolf, Diluc, no, not Diluc, Dvalin, and the Child. And sometimes you can even obtain them from, for example, the Sigil shop, or even from events, if you are lucky. So this means that forging weapons are actually easier to refine than gacha, because they are more free-to-play thing, and even because if you're lucky, you can actually easily obtain a lot of prototype, but that depends on a bit even on your luck. Now the base stats of this weapon are a 44 attack, with a physical damage bonus and secondary stats, that at level 19, meaning a 565 base attack. It is actually pretty high, and with a physical damage bonus of 34.5%. As we know, physical damage bonus only apply on physical damage. This means your normal and charger attacks with claymore. So elemental damage don't benefit from physical damage bonus. So it's like you don't have from them. It's like you don't own it. Now the passive is called the Frost Burial, and when you hit an opponent with your normal or charger attacks, you have an 80% to form an Everfrost cycle on top of them, and when this drop, you deal 60% of your attack as damage. Pretty much, we're gonna steal No Sense Gaming video. As you see, he's using Razor with this weapon, and he attacked the Hishik Mage. You see this crystal right now. This crystal is actually the one that the weapon creates. Now, this crystal will drop, and it's going to do a bit of damage. As you see, this is the damage of the crystal. So this means that, as you see, it's pretty fast to create and even to drop, so it's even pretty easy to spot and deal damage to surrounding enemies because it's area of effect. And if an opponent is affected by Cryo, they actually take 200% of your attack as damage. So you actually deal a bunch of damage if they are affected by Cryo. Pretty much, an enemy is affected by an element when he has an element on top of the head. In this case, Irluch, for example, most of the time are not affected by an element, but because Kaya used its elemental skill, you're going to see that he's affected by Cryo. And you can spot this in-game because he has the element on top of his head. Now, this means that, for example, RFI level 1, you deal 60%, the 60%, let's say, of 1000 is 600. So you will do 600 damage, but if an enemy is affected by Cryo, you're going to do 2000 damage. So you can see that there is a very, very big difference. It's pretty much 3 times the damage you would do normally, even a bit more, because there is a 200 difference, even with 3 times the more, and it only has a 10-second cooldown. 10 seconds is actually pretty low, and so that's very strong. With each refine, and because it's a virgin wagon, it's easy to refine, you obtain, here it's say 15% more chance, but I think that this is wrong by the site because, as you know, having 110% chance actually means nothing, because when you have 100% chance, it means that it always happens. So I think that this should just be a 5%, and they wrote this, and they miswrote this, because with 5%, this would mean that we have 85, 90, 95, and 100. So that would be more sense, because 140% means nothing. It's like you have 40% more chance for a thing that always happens. It doesn't have any benefit in game. So it's only a 5% increase, I'm pretty sure of this. And this increase of 10% damage, and this increase of 14%. It's actually very strong, because at max refine, for example, you have a 100% chance to this to form, that deal 100% of your attack normally, and 100% is still very strong. And if an opponent is affected by Cryo, it's 360. So it's very, very strong. 360 is pretty much a 3.6 multiplier your attack. So if you have 1000 attack, it's like 3600 damage. So it's actually insanely good. And a 10-second cooldown, as I said, it's very, very low. So it's actually a very strong weapon. The only downside that this weapon have is the character that may use this weapon. And in fact, that's what we're going to talk about. Now, this weapon is strong, and because, as you see, if an enemy is affected by Cryo, you take a bunch of damage from the passive, you may think that the best option may be Chongyan. And in fact, Chongyan can easily apply Cryo, but he has a problem. Chongyan elemental skill actually, after you use it, it infuses your weapon with Cryo. So that happens in the old passive. Pretty much what happens is that you deal Cryo damage. So your normal attacks start dealing Cryo damage. Because they deal Cryo damage, you lose the secondary stats. Because if you do Cryo damage, you don't do you pretty much do elemental damage and not physical damage. So it's like you actually lose the 34.5% physical damage bonus. And that's pretty bad. Same thing on Noelle. Noelle, when you use the Air Elemental Burst, start doing geo damage. This means that when Noelle uses Elemental Burst, she loses the 34.5% physical damage bonus, and that's bad. For other character, for example, the other character actually don't have nothing. Other character can use this weapon, but they are not Cryo. So if you want to do a bunch of damage from the passive, you actually need a support Cryo. Or if you don't have one, or you don't want to use one, you can simply keep your, for example, 60% damage. That is still pretty decent. Of course, 200% will be much, much better. Now, Beidou may benefit from this weapon. Yeah, this weapon is actually pretty decent on Beidou. But as I said, usually physical, but it depends on you play Beidou, because most people play Beidou as a support character, thanks to their ultimate and their counter. On Diluc, it's still decent, simply because Diluc actually, a lot of people use Diluc for its elemental burst and elemental skill. They don't actually use his normal attack a lot. And even if you do, you might prefer a weapon with attack percent or crit rate and other things. Or Razor, this weapon is actually good. Razor, with his elemental burst and skill, deal electro damage, but he actually deal even physical damage bonus. This means that he actually can apply the passive and even the physical damage bonus pretty easily. So this weapon is actually good on Razor. And on Xinian, as I said, she may benefit from other weapon, simply because Xinian it's not like a character that you use normal attacks very often. That's the main problem of the weapon. In my opinion, is that most characters in the game don't actually like physical damage a lot. They prefer elemental damage or attack percent. And because the only Cryo character that can use a claymore right now doesn't actually benefit a lot from this weapon, because he loses the secondary stats when you use the elemental skill, and that's a bit meh. But let me know in the comment what you think about this weapon, and see ya on the next weapon review.